Welcome back to Bluegrass this beautiful October afternoon. Today we are talking about what one might expect from a 4 or 5 month old puppy. To illustrate my point, I have 4 tired puppies out here ranging in ages from about 14 weeks to just shy of 6 months. And so we're going to walk them on the course, and we're going to talk about goal setting, and then we're going to go out and we're going to go on a little hike. Okay. Now, so for the first thing, and I really try to, everybody that contacts me, I always try to make sure that they understand that being happy with a dog is a subjective, not objective process, okay? And what I mean by that, okay, come on, Rico. And what I mean by that is that, you know, over the years, I've known a lot of people with a lot of dogs that kind of minded to varying degrees. And believe it or not, how well a dog minds or doesn't mind has very little to do with whether someone ends up being happy with the dog, okay? Happiness comes from met expectations. I've seen a lot of fellas with dogs like Rico who are really easy to train, they really fetch well, they're very pattern cognizant, but their owners are still unhappy because they expect for them to do just a little bit more, you know? Some of the happiest owners I've ever known personally had dogs like English bulldogs or French bulldogs, and the dogs didn't even mind a lick, right? The owners just loved them for who they were, and you know, they just were happy with them. They just chose to be happy with them. So that's the first thing I want to tell you about what should you expect from a 4 or 5 month old dog. You should expect whatever it takes to make you happy, okay? Like around here, I've got a pretty simple metric for determining whether or not I consider a puppy or even an adult dog pretty well trained, okay? Kind of 9 things. I expect dogs to come when I call them. I expect them to be still when I tell them. I expect them to have good manners from my neighbor's perspective. I expect for dogs to start social situations off by being calm, attentive, and polite, and I expect dogs to refrain from behavior that's dangerous, destructive, or rude. If I have those 9 things, then I'm pretty dang happy with the dog, okay? Come on, Rico. Now, let's take these 2 dogs for instance. If I judged this English Cocker, okay, Oscar, by Rico, this field-bred lab, if I judged them by the exact same standard, I would be unhappy because they're 2 different dogs. If I judged either of those dogs, you know, by the standard that I would normally judge a Greater Swiss Mountain Dogs, you know, those guys, they're not going to give me the same behavior this guy's going to give, but this guy's not going to give me the exact same behavior that they're going to give. I'd be unhappy. And that's why I'm telling you that you have to choose to be happy, okay? And you just need a real simple set of baseline metrics, okay? In other words, you need good basic obedience. And you know, what's the foundation for basic obedience? Good attention span, good impulse control, lots and lots and lots of socialization, okay? If you have good attention span, good impulse control, lots of socialization, and a dog that'll come when you call it and be still when you tell it and have good, it's hard to not be happy. Okay, now believe it or not, come on Rico, I still see people that are unhappy with their dogs, and I honestly believe that most people are unhappy with their dogs for 2 reasons. Number 1, well, people are just too lazy to do proper foundation work and to manage their dogs properly with the amount of exercise and social interaction that it takes for a dog to be successful. I would say that's the most common. I would say the second most common cause of unhappiness, and this is subtle, but I think it's true. The second most common cause of unhappiness is what I call training dysmorphia. In other words, watching things on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok where people are doing things with your dog, with their dogs, and then thinking that you should, for some reason, be doing those exact same things with your dog. Okay? I think it's very important that you sit down with your family and you make an objective list of the things that it takes for you to be able to be happy with your dog, and then you take the steps necessary, okay, to check off everything on that list every single day. And I really think that's all there is to it. When you're watching TV sometimes, or watching your phone or whatever, sometimes it's easy to, you watch a guy like me who does dog training all day, every day, and so I walk around on this little course, or I go hiking, or I go out to my farm and my dogs are doing really well, and think that your dog has to do exactly the same, you know, on the same timeline. Well, of course that's not true. I mean, I'm working with a wide disparity of dogs, okay? And some of those dogs do better than the other dogs, right? Okay, but all of the dogs that come here, the amount of total training volume that they get per day, the amount of environmental socialization, the amount of environmental exposure, things like that, it's just so much higher than you're going to get at home that I try to tell you, don't just click on my videos and then like choose to be happy based on whether or not your dog is progressing at the same rate I'm progressing at. Even for people that send dogs here. When people send dogs here, it's a one-year process, you know. There's some pre-boarding work, then the dogs come here and they board and train for a little while, then they go home and I monitor their progress over the course of the next year in a training journal. But it's a long process because what happens is life gets in the way of perfect training, okay? Like this video, I was wanting to make this video at about 9 o'clock this morning, but my son's going out of town, and so we had a lot of stuff to do, and then we had some equipment things that we had to work on, and so I didn't get to make the video till almost 1:30 in the afternoon. Okay, well, so what's happened is all my dogs are tired. And so what you would normally see is a bunch of dogs running around here really happy, following me along, you know, and going, oh, Stonnie's great, Stonnie's great. Well, they're all kind of off in different directions now, and are all laying down and taking naps because they're tired. Okay, and that's what you're going to run into in your real life. You have to remember, when I'm making a video, I'm usually making a video, and this is true for everybody on YouTube. We're making videos when like the dogs are doing great, okay? Because that's what we do. You know, we want to showcase the highlights of our day. But in reality, what we get a lot of is what's going on right here. You know, I got one dog that's minding, I got one dog's off chasing flies, I got 2 or 3 other dogs that are just off laying down in the sun. And no matter how much I try to get them to work on their vocabulary work or their, you know, their physical skill set development right now on this course, you know, they're just kind of done for the morning, okay? Because it's not morning anymore. This is a morning activity that we do, and it's the middle of the afternoon, okay? This is your life right here, okay? You're not always going to have the perfect training time. You're not always going to have the perfect training group around you. Maybe the people at your dog park, they're not really fun to go socialize with, okay? And I want you to understand it's okay not to be making progress at the same rate that you see dogs making progress on social media. Okay, because it's not that, like, you know, someone like me is being disingenuous. I'm usually showing you really what I'm doing. I'm just showing you at a time of day where it's fun and it looks good and it's uplifting and it's upbeat. You know, I make YouTube videos to inspire people to get out, to get moving, and to be interesting. You know, and when the dogs are tired, there's only so interesting you can be, right? Okay. Now, that being said, I'm going to show you right now how to kind of take a situation like this where the dogs are tired and you didn't quite get to doing your, you know, quote unquote training, you know, like you wanted to do, and still turn it into an upbeat and positive experience where the dogs are learning a lot and you end your day with, you know, some good, valuable time in your training basket. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these dogs away from this boring classroom, and we're just going to go out back and we're going to take a walk, and I'm going to let them learn by doing. Okay, we're just going to go out in nature, and I'm going to let them sniff and have around, and you know, let them just learn what the environment has to teach them. Okay, so how do you salvage a day when you're trying to work on training and like your dog is too tired or too bored, right? You do what old-fashioned school teachers, who were the school teachers who really knew what they were doing, right? You do what they did, which is have a recess. Okay, so we walked out back from my Exercise with Small Challenges course, and we're just gonna take a walk, and we're going to do some learning by doing, and we're going to work on some recalls and really just letting the dogs kind of have a good time. You know, I'm always trying to make myself interesting, and a great way to make yourself interesting is to be a leader on some awesome and fun expeditions. Hey dogs, come on, come on. You're very good dogs. Every so often what you'll see me doing is, oh, and of course I have no name out here. Whenever I go on my big field trips, I always take a mentor dog because the mentor dog keeps all these young guys in line. But I'm gonna walk around and I'm gonna let these guys smell, and periodically I'm gonna call them, maybe run away from them. I might go hide in the brush a little bit and let them come find me. But all in all, I just wanna have fun, okay? So, the next time that you find yourself in a position where like your formal dog training is not going very well, how about you just lighten up and go do something fun, you know? Rome wasn't built in a day, and good dog training is not built in a day either, you know? There's very distinct phases to dog training. You know, when you have a puppy, they kind of do better and better and better, then they hit adolescence and they get worse, and they start to climb out of that trough and they level off. You got a lot of time between 4 and 5 months and an adult dog that mine's super reliable, you know? So like, don't be afraid just to have some cheat days, you know, just some days where you just go out and you just goof off and you accept the fact that your formal classwork, you know, you missed it, right? You missed the time of day, or you missed the environment, or you yourself, you're not in a good mood. And when, you know, when dog trainers aren't in good moods, it's reflected in the dog training activities, right? And just go take a walk, you know. And while you're taking a walk, don't micromanage, you know. What you're gonna see is I'm just gonna kind of walk around here and let these dogs pretty much do what they wanna do. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on them, making sure they don't go off too awfully far. Very nice. And get themselves in trouble. Okay, cameraman, if you want to go ahead and go that way. Now out here in my pre-adventure area, I have like a kind of well-defined mode pass. And so, you know, people a lot of times they'll ask me, they say, well, Stonnie, aren't you kind of worried you don't have the dog on the leash? I don't see any equipment on the dogs. Well, the way I've designed my pre-adventure area is that all the paths are circular, right? And so, like, if the dogs take off running, they always end up circling back and finding me anyway, you know? And when they find me, I always want to be doing something interesting, you know? So one of the things that, you know, for people who watch my channel a lot, you all know about the brush pile challenges. So I'll let the dogs run off and do whatever they're doing, and then they'll come find me, and I'll be up here on the brush pile, and they'll be like, hey, Stonnie, what are you doing up there? And I'll say, nothing, dude, I'm just chilling, you know? And they'll say, well, can I come up there? I'm like, sure, that's awesome. I'd be glad for you to come up here. That'd be great. Very nice. And look at Caleb. He came right up here on top of the brush pile. Very nice dog. I like it, right? Okay, give him a little attention. And then I'm gonna get down and I'm gonna go about my business, okay? I'm out here taking a walk because I want the dogs to enjoy themselves. I'm not out here taking a walk so that I can boss the dogs or so that I can micromanage them or make them feel that recess isn't fun, okay? This is learning by doing. You know, my kennel is a puppy Montessori. I shape the environment and the environment shapes the dogs. And I really think that when normal pet owners adopt that same mentality, that the training goes a lot more smoothly. When you don't get so obsessed on super well-defined, you know, goals at the 4, 5, and 6 month, I think that's a little better. I like to keep the goals kind of, you know, big and general and loose, you know. In other words, I like to know that when I go out, my dog's not going to go too far, right? No name. I like to know that, you know, if I call the dogs, they're going to come to me. Caleb, come here, Caleb. You a good boy. You know, this is what I like. I like to just come out here and have enough rules that allows me to help the dogs have a positive learning experience safely, okay? And I think if you would maybe stop thinking about dog training so much as like this series of, you know, commands or directions or this artificial sense of how important you are. This is what's killing me nowadays with dog training. Dog trainers a lot are making dogs' lives so much about the dog trainer. I mean, you'll hear this wrapped up in various terminology, right? Like engagement or whatever. But I see people, and they're going out in the world, and they're acting like the dog shouldn't want to be petted by anyone. It shouldn't want to be friends with any other dogs. It shouldn't want to go off and check out what's in a ditch. Like the dog should walk and be engaged with the owner all the time. And this is what I always ask people, where does that happen in your real life? Like, how many people do you know that are so interesting that they go out and people follow them around and look at them? I mean, not too many people are like that. And I think really what's happening is that people don't like the fact that nobody pays attention to them, and so they get a dog and kind of make them a little captive audience, right? And that's not cool, at least not for me, you know. What I want out of my dog at 4, 5, 6 months or 6 years is I want him just to be a pal, you know. I just want to be able to like go out and like have fun in the world. And I accept the fact that, you know, I'm in charge of keeping the dogs safe. I'm in charge of making sure that the dogs don't interfere with someone else's happiness or damage someone else's property. So I do, you know, unfortunately get stuck in the role of being the, you know, the rule enforcer, right? Okay, but that's not because I want to. That's just because kind of, you know, how life works. So cameraman, you can back up there. We're gonna go to the left. So look, you see this little dog? This is an English Cocker. Now what this dog likes to do more than anything else in life is to come and run zigzags. And that's just genetics. And so, you know, let's talk about being happy with the dog. if you buy a little dog, a flushing dog that's bred to run zigzags in front of you, guess what they're going to do when they're on the leash a whole lot of the time? Is they're going to want to zigzag in front of you, right? Okay? So what do I do when people have English Cockers and they say, well, Stonnie, this dog won't walk right beside me? I say, well, yeah, that's what you bought. You know, okay? So you're going to have to be super patient. And you're going to have to really go out of your way to convince the dog that walking right beside you is a good idea. You know, see this Swiss Mountain Dog? Swiss Mountain Dogs, you know, they like to tell stories about how they used to, you know, pull milk carts or whatever in the Swiss Alps. I don't know about any of that, but I do know this, that they're big blocky dogs and they get tired really quickly. Okay, so if we go out here and we're walking around, you know, on a hike, okay, and I'm calling the dogs and some of the field bred dogs are coming back super fast and, you know, Tucker's just kind of loping back, or sometimes he just lopes halfway back and lays down, okay. The only realistic way for me to be happy with them is to accept the fact that that's going to happen, right? These dogs, oh, I'm sorry. These dogs are who they are. Let me see if I can call Tucker. Tucker, come on. Come on, Tucker, you can do it. Here it comes. Now watch. I can get a pretty good recall. Now I'm going to come uphill, cameraman. Good dog. So watch, I'm going to walk uphill. Rico, come on. Now the difference between going uphill and downhill is I could walk this circuit like to my right and call him downhill, and I can get a super fast recall every time I call him because he's running downhill. If I run counterclockwise, okay, then my recalls are always slow because it's really hard for big blocky dogs to run uphill. Okay, and that's another place where you have to understand that setting your expectations, okay, is important. Understanding the environments is really important. Understanding the breed-specific tendencies of the dog, it's very important, okay? Having a mentor dog to pal around with and help out, that's very important, you know? And if you go to, look how fast, that's because he's running downhill. And if you go to having trouble, okay, don't externalize all that blame on the dog. I mean, have you set the situation up for the dog to be successful? Is it the right time of day? Is it the right environment? Are the right group of dogs around? You know, are you in a good mood? Are you doing a good job? You know, so when I started to make this video, I initially thought I was just going to show you, you know, a little bit about food work and maybe, you know, how you should start to be fading off the treats by about 16 or 18 weeks. He says, we don't use treat work for very long around here. That's kind of what I was thinking. And then the day just got away from me and all the dogs were tired. And that's when I realized that that's what today's video should be about. Because if it happens to me, guys, I mean, I'm a professional dog trainer. I do this every day. Then I know it's happening to you all the time, okay? So we're just going to keep walking, but I want to leave you with the idea that what you should expect at 4 or 5 months, okay? You should expect a puppy to come when you call it. You should expect it to be relatively still when you tell it. You should expect it to have good manners from the neighbor's perspective with a little help, okay? And what that means is you're still going to be using your system at that age, right? Okay, whatever system you're using, okay? You should be able, at 16 weeks old, a puppy should be able to go out in public and be around people and be relatively calm, relatively attentive, and relatively polite without much of the way and help of training aids. Okay, that's pretty important, right? At 16 to 24 weeks old, the dogs are going to kind of be doing really well in terms of avoiding behavior that's dangerous, destructive, and rude. Okay, so you should be pretty far along in that. Okay, but here's the caveat there. Puppies get to where they've got super good like self-control between 16 and 24 weeks, and then they hit adolescence and it's like, it's just all gone, right? And you wonder where your smart puppy went, okay? So like understand that 16 to 24 weeks you're gonna get this if you're a good proactive dog trainer, and then 24 to 32 or maybe 28 to 36, somewhere past 6 months, but before a year, you're going to go through some very distinct boundary testing phases, and you might also, depending on the type of dog you have, go through some very distinct fear periods, okay? And fear periods cause a lot of trouble. I've got a little dog here from the Bahamas. It's got, kind of went through a late onset fear period. We might make a video about her, okay? But, okay, well, so that's kind of my video. I know it's a little bit rambling, okay? But just to sum it up, guys, set your own goals for 4 or 5 months. But have a baseline, okay? Need a dog, good attention span, good impulse control, and good solid basic obedience, okay? Understand that 16 to 24 weeks should be a honeymoon phase. If you're still struggling at 16 to 24 weeks, okay, and remember 16 to 24 weeks is easy compared to 6 months and beyond, okay? If you're struggling, get with a local trainer and learn a system. I don't even care what system you learn. Learn a system. Don't technique hop, going from system to system to system. Find somebody that can demonstrate competence, learn the system, and implement that system and get your puppy caught up to where it'll come when you call it, be still when you tell it, and have good manners between 16 and 24 weeks, okay? Because you're going to lose some of that past 6 months. Then it'll come back, don't worry, but you're going to lose a little bit during that adolescent boundary testing phase, okay? And choose to be happy, okay? And that's with the dogs, that's with everything in your life, okay? Get up, hold your head up, keep your eyes out looking for the good in life, because if you're looking for the good in life, if you're looking for the good in the dog, then you're going to find it. And I would say that's really what you need to be focused on between, say 4 and 5 months, maybe up to 6 months with a dog. And don't forget to relax and enjoy the process, because trust me, I've been through it a lot of times. It will not be very long until your puppy, who seems to be a little bit aggravating, right, is an old dog and you're wondering where the time went. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Oh, let's go. You're very good dogs. You ended up doing okay today. You ended up doing okay today. No name, you were a good mentor. Very good dog.